Assalamu alaikum. Second week of Ramadan. It's so hard fasting here in Arizona. Temperatures are over 100 degrees. How do you fast here? I don't know how they do it, man.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Wait your turn! Wait your turn! Okay.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to day 9 of the Daily Dose with Hazim and Ayman. Inshallah, we're going to change things up a little bit today. Instead of talking about a specific ayah from the 9th juz of the Quran, what we want to do is talk about al-a'raf, meaning the heights or the elevated ground. This is the surah that composes a majority of the 9th juz. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talks about the heights or the elevated ground, He says that it's a place between the heaven and the hellfire, where some people, their good deeds, they weren't enough to get them into Jannah, and their bad deeds weren't enough to get them into the hellfire. So they leveled out, and so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts them on this place until He makes the final decision of where they will go. So what we want to do is focus on how we can tip the scale onto the side of the Jannah. So first of all, we want to make sure definitely that we're not going to be in the hellfire, but at the same time we also want to make sure that we're not at this point where our deeds are level. We want to be on the side of Al-Jannah, inshallah. So we want to talk about just how, subhanAllah, the significance of a small deed and how the significance of a small bad deed can be on our scale. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Kahf in ayah 49,
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ووضع الكتاب فترى المجرمين مشفقين مما فيه ويقولون يا ويلتنا ما لهذا الكتاب لا يغادر صغيرة ولا كبيرة إلا أحصاها ووجدوا ما عملوا حاضرا ولا يظلم ربك أحدا.
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and the record of deeds will be placed open, and you will see the you will see the criminals fearful of that within it, and they will say, "Oh, woe to us! What is this book that leaves nothing small or great except that it is enumerated in it?" And they will find what they did present before them, and your Lord does injustice to no one. SubhanAllah, this ayah is talking about how these people who, when they receive their book, and they will say, SubhanAllah, that every little bad thing that they did, every small thing that they did was written in this book. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling them that that Allah does not do injustice to anyone. He will judge us according to our deeds, subhanAllah.
So let's go over two different scenarios. Two different scenarios where you can tip your scale to the good side, allowing yourself to enter Jannah, or tipping it to the wrong side, being forced to go to hellfire. Let's start with the first one, tipping it to the good side so you can enter Jannah. Prophet Muhammad says in a very beautiful hadith, it's found in Bukhari, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrated that the Prophet Muhammad said that there's a prostitute who will be forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala simply because she found a panting dog that was very thirsty and she decided to quench its thirst. What did she do? She used her shoe, tied it to her head cover, drew out some water and quenched the thirst of this dog. And because of this small yet very good deed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave all of her sins even though she was a prostitute. On the other side of the spectrum, you can have a person who will do one small bad thing and it will tilt the scale in a way where it will allow you to enter hellfire. So you have a story, and it's also a hadith narrated by Abdullah ibn Umar, where he says that the Prophet Muhammad said that a woman will be tortured and will be put to hell on the day of judgment simply because she took a cat and she locked it up in her house and she did not allow it to eat or drink. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell her, you're going to hellfire because you didn't allow her to eat, you didn't allow her to drink, you didn't allow her to go outside and, eat freely from whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put onto the earth, from insects or whatever. So because of this, one small bad deed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tilt her scale and she will be forced to go into hellfire.
Well, these hadiths are enough to realize that every single deed that we do will be recorded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That anything we do, big or small, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will record it in this book, and our books, and then inshallah will be weighed on the scale of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And let's talk for a minute about the scale of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we said that we're going to be weighing our we're going to be weighing our good deeds and our bad deeds, and we want our good deeds, of course, to outweigh our bad deeds. But if you think about our deeds, subhanAllah, that's for ourselves in this life we can sort of quantify. Like we can quantify, our prayers, our fasting. We can quantify, the good deeds that we do. We can count these deeds. But some things that we can't quantify ourselves. Can you quantify how much your iman is? Can you quantify the manners that you have, the akhlaq, the adab that you have? These things you can't quantify. These things only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can quantify. So we may think, you can do these simple calculations. Oh, I did this and I did this and I did this bad and this good. And you think, okay, I'm going to make it. Or, I'm not going to make it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge because He doesn't give a specific, a specific value to certain things. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge them. And when you think about the small deeds, the Prophet ﷺ said that a small deed done consistently is greater in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the big deed that is done sporadically. So subhanAllah, these small deeds that we do, whether good or bad, are the ones that are going to tip the scale. And subhanAllah, if you think about your life, when was the last time that you gave a dirty look to your parents, that you rolled your eyes at them? When was the last time that you didn't listen to them? When was the last time that you looked at something that you shouldn't have looked at? It was just a simple deed that you gained an instant, a second of pleasure, but subhanAllah, that deed could be heavy on the scale of Allah, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment. Or when was the last time that you did something good, that you just simply removed something out of the way, and you did something good for your parents just out of nowhere, and that small good deed could be the one that will tip the scale in the side of Al-Jannah, inshallah.
So an example of a small good deed that we can do, something very, very easy that each and every one of us can do to tip our scale, inshallah, is a very beautiful saying by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, in which he says that كلمتان خفيفتان على اللسان ثقيلتان في الميزان حبيبتان للرحمن سبحان الله وبحمده سبحان الله العظيم. That he says, describing these two words, he said that it's two statements that are very light on the tongue, very easy to say, but very heavy in the scale on the Day of Judgment, and they're beloved to Ar-Rahman, to the All-Merciful, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is it? Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, Subhanallah al-Azim. So Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, Subhanallah al-Azim, something very easy that we can say all the time, but it is surely going to tip our scale, inshallah, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala.
So to help you get through Ramadan each and every day, check the Mass Arizona page to get your
Daily Dose.